This is the Kestrel Country Podcast, where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country. Well, Stan, VanArsdale.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in and joining us today.
It's been quite a treat already. I've only been here 5 minutes.
There you go. Well, yeah, appreciate you coming in. I thought it's always fun to get to know kind of people's stories, how they got to the area, what they do. Part of what kind of kicked off to having you in was bird hunting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good bird hunting opportunities around here, and I know you've taken a lot of advantage of it. But to back up maybe, where'd you grow up? You are not from this area, right?
No, Western Oregon. And so that all leads into bird hunting.
Okay, perfect.
I was raised in Willamette Valley, and my first pheasant hunting experience was when I was about 10 or 11, and somebody hands me a 410, and they send the dogs out, and we're walking across fields, and I don't know anything about what's going on, and I think we saw a couple birds, but I never pulled the trigger. So somebody pointed out, well, if you were 10 years old, that means you got about 60 years of bird hunting behind you.
There you go.
But I had a big gap in between there. There was several college years, and all that happened. But then that's where I was raised, and that's where I first got started hunting. And then my family, we started raising kids over there, and then family moved this way. And of course, I'm chasing grandkids. That's my job nowadays,
Yeah.
So we chase them over here, and I had a couple horses, still have a couple horses, and we needed some property where we could have horses. So we ended up kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Property I could afford, a little corner of a guy's field, and not really thinking about bird hunting. And the season comes along, I start looking around, there's birds around here, and I got a dog. Here we go.
So were you bird hunting in Oregon before you moved up here?
Yeah.
So you already had the dog.
Yeah, and that's a whole story. I told you earlier, I was on a thing kind of like this once before, and I told a story, and rethinking it, I realized I got a little carried away. And you can't really take those back, but this is my chance for redemption.
There you go.
I can tell the story the way it was supposed to be told this time.
Perfect.
But we were in Oregon, and my kids were little, and I thought, well, we need a dog. We kind of we did live out in the country. And I ran into a guy who had a Brittany, and that's a pretty little dog. I'm going to buy one of those. So I got one, and we'd had her 2-3 years, and I ran into a guy in our church that did bird hunting in Eastern Oregon. And I said, I bet this dog has some hunting instincts. I think I'd like to give her a try. So we loaded her up along with his 2 black labs and headed for Eastern Oregon. And opening day, how all that happens. And I hadn't even shot a shotgun for quite a while. And I had a gun. And we pulled up to a spot, opened up, the dogs spilled out. And we started walking, took about 20 steps, and up flushed a flock of quail. And I shot one, and it fell right in a plowed field, so there's no question what had happened.
Yeah.
And this little dog went running over there, picked it up, turned and looked at me, started walking toward me. What is going on here? This dog points, flushes, retrieves, the whole thing. Well, the first time I told the story, the dog came clear back and dropped the bird. Well, I started thinking, that isn't really what happened. The dog took about 5 steps, and these 2 black labs came rushing out. The dog dropped the bird, and the black labs retrieved it.
There you go. Team retrieve.
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's a redemption.
That's amazing. So she hadn't had any sort of training at all, just had all the instinct.
I don't remember whether she pointed much, but later in her life, she was really good. A lot of these dogs, if you just expose them to the situations enough, they figure it out pretty quick. They figure out what you want, and they've got enough instinct to get them going. And that's kind of what she was. That was my first, and I've had, I don't know how many Brittany's since then, German short hairs, and one Wiesel along the way, but that was the first one.
What do you have now?
The little Brittany. He is a cross between a French Brittany and an American Brittany, and I never thought there was much. I didn't realize that. But with that cross, you get a little different head, and they're a little cuter. They're not quite such a pointed face. And I was told that the French Brittany's have a little better retrieving instinct. And Brittany's as a whole are not known for the retrieving. And I worked with him quite a bit when he was just a puppy, but he's a great retriever now. He's getting a little I'm letting him get by with a little too much now. Now he brings it up to about 4 feet away and kind of drops it. We worked really hard at that, handing it to him. And then last few birds, he just kind of dropped it there and said, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal.
Yeah, so Brittany's you guys have really enjoyed having Brittany's, and
Yeah.
that's kind of been a theme.
Well, kind of, but I've had German Shorthairs I really enjoy too. And the idea of, bird hunting, it's kind of painting a picture. It's not just going out and shooting birds. And I've run into guys who they drive their vehicles up and down the road, they see a rooster and they run out and flush it and shoot it and come back. At the end of the day, they said, we got 3 birds or whatever. They don't have a dog. They didn't do any hunting. All they did is just run up and down the road and look for birds. No, that's not the way it works. It's painting a picture. The whole getting in the car in the morning and loading up the dogs and getting the gear out and going to your destination, getting the dog out, and then the whole hunting process and the fall colors and everything. And then the finishing the picture is when you get the point, and that's good. You not always get a bird, but you get the point. Then you get the flush. That's even better. Then you get the shot, you hit the bird that falls. That's wonderful. And then the dog runs out and brings it to you. That's the final chapter. What more can you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what I think is fun about that is you're not done. When you go big game hunting, you're done. And then work starts. With bird hunting, you just pick the bird up, stick it in your pocket, and go on again.
And you keep going. No, it's true. Well, not only that, but you're not done for the season.
Yeah,
right.
That's
like
true.
For big game
That's
hunting.
Right.
Yeah, it was always. Sometimes it's a little disappointing when you get something on opening day, because then you're just done. Whereas with bird hunting, you can do it all the time.
And my wife asked me the other day, why don't big game hunt? And I have big game hunted in the past, but here the bird hunting runs for clear through the middle of January. And if you really want to use your dog, I mean, that's all they want to do. You don't really have time to go running around looking for other things to do.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to see. So this year is the first year with Gunner that I got him out.
Yeah.
I mean,
How old is he now? He's 2?
He's 2.
2, yeah.
Yeah. And to see him, it's so cool to see a dog like that do what they were bred to do.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting because he's really my first gun dog. And it's interesting to see him around the house. He's just a total basket case goofball, like not bad behaved, but he's just, tearing around, jumping, he's just acting goofy.
What am I doing
right?
with this thing?
Like he's just goofy. And so I kind of expected when we got out on the field that he would act and I was kind of like, I don't know how it's going to go. But man, it's like he knew, I'm not playing right now. I'm hunting.
Been here before.
Like this is what I'm made for. And he just, to watch him work and the intensity and the fun that he goes and goes and
so
goes.
So now you're going to feel guilty every day that he spends sitting at home. You need to get him out. You're depriving this creature. And I've often said, I like about dogs. If dogs weren't involved in this, I probably wouldn't be involved. That's what really drew me in. And I think it's exciting to see one of God's creatures that knows exactly what it's here for. That's all it wants to do, and it does it well.
Yeah.
And that's all they live for.
And loves it.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah. So that was East. You said Eastern Oregon.
No, well,
you went on that trip.
Yeah,
but then what was it like? I mean, so Western Oregon, similar to around here, a lot of farm fields that you'd hunt and that kind of thing?
Smaller.
Okay.
There's more brush and more undergrowth and more rain. But that's interesting because this whole pheasant thing got started in Western Oregon. The first pheasants, this is what I've been told, I think I've read it, were brought over here by a doctor who lived in Sheridan, Oregon, which was just about 15, 20 miles south of where I was living. And when I was growing up, there were lots of pheasants around, but there aren't very many around now. I think it's the change of more people living in rural areas. I don't know what's really going on. They've tried to interbreed Szechuan pheasants, which look a lot like ringneck, but they don't have a ring neck. They have a darker head. And the idea was that they're more protective of their nests, more aggressive, and if they could kind of interbreed those with the ringnecks that were there. But I don't know that really happened. I still,
Interesting.
I kind of moved away before I watched. But they're still planting pheasants, and there's a lot of hunters out there. But not these nice wild birds like here.
Yeah.
They're planted birds, a lot of them.
A lot of them are.
Yeah, I think. I don't know too much about it. I moved away.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was living there, I kind of quit pheasant hunting and started quail hunting. So we'd drive to Central Oregon and quail hunt. And there was some great quail hunting. We had many days where three of us would go hunting. We'd get our 30 quail limit. And, that's a lot of shooting, 30 quails.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. And one thing it did for me, it made pheasants seem like blimps. Those fast little buzz bomb quails, chasing those around, and all of a sudden these big pheasants. That's pretty easy shooting.
Yeah. How'd that go with with the dogs and quail versus pheasant? It seems like, at least my experience has been, man, those quail are so jumpy. It's hard to get them. What we've run into is that, dog bump them and the whole covey just goes everywhere. Like, man, hard to get them to hold.
There's lots of different stories about that, but one thing about quail, they're out of 20 or 15 or 20, there's usually a couple, 3 dumb ones. So the quail flush, okay, there's going to be 2 or 3 around here still somewhere, and you can usually get them in, but you can't, in the brush, you can't follow them like you can pheasants. You can't see where they've gone. Some you can. But, what's interesting is the Hungarian partridge around here, they're kind of bigger like quail, but they never leave anybody behind. Very rarely. When they flush, they all go. Unless certain times of the year, later in the year, early and late, they're a little more individual, but during the season, man, they're gone. And the other thing is that if a cuffy has been flushed a couple times, they get a little jumpy. But if you're in an area that hasn't been hunted, they'll stay a lot better, and you get a lot better shot at them. That's probably you ran into quail that had already been pushed around a little bit.
Yeah, probably. So you said you'd go to Eastern Oregon. Were there not quail in Western Oregon where you were?
There were, but we found a farmer that had a nice long gorge, and it's more open, and there was just lots of quail. And I did shoot a pheasant in that valley one time. Very rare. Hunting quail day after day after day, and this big rooster jumped up. Where did this guy come from? I probably shouldn't have shot him. He was the one last remaining one, but I couldn't resist.
That's fun. So when did you move here? You said you're chasing grandkids,
I think it's been, I don't even know, I think 18 years now, 12 years. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I have to think back. Elliot is now 16, I think, and we moved over here to babysit Elliot. So
there you go. Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And you said you had horses. That was part of why you found your spot.
Right.
So you had horses in Oregon before that. Yeah. And are the two related? Did you hunt some off of horseback?
I did hunt horses. I worked really hard for a long time to get a horse that would ground tie solid enough that I could climb off him and go over and shoot and come back and still have a horse standing there. That's hard to do in a lot of ways. And I remember thinking, like I said, I planned and trained. I remember hauling a horse to Central Oregon one time, and the first time, and went hunting, and it really worked. The horse actually stood there, and I actually shot the bird, and the dog brought it to me. Like the picture I'm painting, but now we got this other body in the picture. And I said, this is like a football coach training his team for years to play one play, and it worked.
Yeah.
and it worked. It was amazing. But I've kind of gotten away from that because it's hard to keep a horse that interested. They don't like doing it. They look at you apprehensive. As you're walking away with the gun, they keep a real sharp eye on you. And I could still do it. In fact, I did it some last year. But there's something said to be just walking behind your dog. The nice thing about horses, you can see a lot better.
Oh,
you can see you're up higher. You can see the dog working. You can walk a lot farther. The trouble is, the places where you can hunt with horses is got to be pretty open. You can't have a lot of ditches and a lot of fences, and there aren't as many birds there.
Yeah,
it's kind of up on the side hills, but it's good to get out and do it once in a while.
Yeah. So was that? Did you see somebody else doing that, or how did you?
Stream.
Oh, really?
I saw an old magazine. I said, well, "Look at that! These guys!" And they were hunting in Montana. I guess it's pretty common in Montana. In fact, at one point, I kind of threatened to haul my horses to Montana and hunting grouse. I think hunting grouse over there. It's big open country and a lot of public land and well open, so you could ride for long ways. Huh. And I thought, and then I found out from that was traditional way to hunt for hundreds of years in England. A lot of the hunting was done on horses. And of course, field trials, dogs. There's some forms of field trial. The whole thing is on horses.
Wow.
All the hunters, the handlers, and the gallery. It's kind of neat. There's a gallery of horseback riders right along behind and
Wow.
and watch everything, so everything. And it's Tennessee Walkers. Everybody's got to have a Tennessee Walker, but I had quarter horses, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unique. Well, like you said, painting that picture adds another element, another thing to train. So how did you get started training your dogs? So you had the one Brittany who was just kind of a natural.
Yeah, and I probably, I thought back in that I've had a lot of dogs, and I'm sure there's a lot of dogs went through my life that I really didn't do anything except try to come to me. And then I did a little work to make sure they weren't gun shy, and then just took them out and started going. Of course, it doesn't take anybody, even I can figure out how to make them stay in close when you got an e-collar. And e-collars, you can do a lot of things with e-collars, but the basics are keeping the dog in close. And my theory is, if I could keep the dog in close and we hunted enough, and the other main thing is the whoa. If I could just get to slow down to my voice, come out, whoa, whoa, and then I had a good chance of helping them shape up and they'd figure it out. We wouldn't run over too many birds. And that's usually, so what I'm saying is I'm not a detailed trainer. You see these guys at field trials and all kinds of amazing training. These dogs do some amazing things. Well, I'm pretty basic. Get them out there and go hunting. And that's about it.
Well, it seems like a lot of them too. It's in the dog. It's in in their genetics. And a lot of them are smart too. It's like you said, if you hunt them, you keep doing it, they're going to pick it up and learn as they go. And so did you? Speaking of genetics, were you picky at all about the dogs where you got them or anything?
I usually looked at the price tag.
There you go.
But I had a couple Brittany's, and then somebody said something about German Shorthair, and they're such pretty dogs, those German Shorthairs. So I had a couple of those, and they were good hunters. In fact, the best retrieving dog I ever had was a German Shorthair, and that was over here. I had him in Oregon and brought her over here too. But that dog, I could shoot and just sit down on every bird, and I'd never lose a bird.
Wow.
I couldn't remember ever shooting a bird, winging it, and sawing it fall and not having it come back. And there was some tough country, a lot of brush and trees. And I remember one time just seeing the bird just kind of flash between trees. I shot, and I could see that it had fallen. And I said, there's no chance. I'm not even going to try to go in there. So I just sat down, and a few minutes later, you hear crunch, crunch, crunch. Come back through the brush with the bird. It was pretty good dog.
Yeah. Well, at least my experience was, I've got a male, but just tough too. This German Shorthair is just like, he'll just plow into anything and just
go for it.
Tear into it, which is pretty fun.
I do remember one time over here, I was out north of here, and there was a pretty steep side hill with a lot of brush right along the base of the hill, and the dog went on point right at the base of this brush, and I'm thinking this bird is going to flush out the other side, and I'm not even ever going to see it, but if he can hold point long enough. And so I picked my way through the brush and up on the side hill and worked my way around and round and round, and then got positioned just right. Bird flushed right up above me, and I shot, but it flew back and fell way out in this field. And I just barely see through the brush. I can see the dog. This is the same dog. And I ran, and pick up the bird, went back, and I can see it come across the field. And hear it coming through the brush and how it comes with the bird. What a dog.
That's a picture, right? That's a painting.
That's the picture.
Yeah.
It isn't at all like driving down the road, shooting one off the shoulder of the road just because you saw it.
Yeah. So around here, what's your success rate like? When you talk about people go out and get a bird, how often do you go out and don't get anything?
Not very often this year. Last year, I was pretty discouraged. I went out several times without getting any. And I had read someplace that the bird population was diminishing by 7% per year. And I think, that 7% finally caught up with me. And this year, I was kind of anticipating the same thing because we had such wet springs. And it's about the second week of June when they're hatching. And if you get a lot of heavy rain and wind, those little downy chicks come out, they get a little wet, and that wind will kill them. And not only that, but there was so much wind, I think there's a lot of water probably washed nests away. So I wasn't expecting much. But then opening day, I must have seen 30 pheasants before I ever got out of the pickup.
Wow.
And a lot of it was this place where I was going to hunt. We pulled up there, and on one side of the road was the cover. On the other side is a stubble field, just full of pheasants. They're just standing out there. So, I creeped up on them, hoping they'd flush down into they went the other direction, of course. But that told me
Yeah.
they were. And then we went
that's
to
good.
a second place, and there was a road, and I knew I couldn't hunt on one side, but I could on the other side. The side I couldn't hunt on, of course, I looked down the fence row and I see about 10 or 15 pheasants, and we went on the other side, didn't find any. But they'll be back. They'll come across the road, and I'll find them sometime.
Yeah.
Give them a try. I know where they are. I know their address.
So are you still, I remember, I don't know, a few years back, you were hunting pretty much every day of the season.
Yeah, and I haven't
Still
this
get
year.
out.
I've got other things going on. That's horses. I got a horse story. Anyway, I was talking to somebody the other day. I think I'm running it about every hour and a half. But I'm only hunting by two hours in a section at a time in the afternoon usually. And so, I get one about every day that I go out. It's pretty consistent.
Well, what do you like to do with them? How do you cook pheasants? That's another
I'll tell
ball
you what I
wax.
do, and it's taken me a few years to settle on this. There was a time when I tried to cook them like chef cooking. My wife doesn't like that. Doesn't want me in the kitchen. Doesn't want to do it herself. So then I found people who would take them, and I call college students. There's some college students that will just take anything you give them.
Yeah.
Not really. If you clean
They
it,
probably would.
give them a good breast or something, So I was hauling them, and I shouldn't really probably tell you this, but I found a restaurant that would trade a pheasant for a meal, and they weren't serving the pheasant over the counter. They were doing other things with the pheasant. But anyway, that was nice, and but we've gone through all that. So now what I do is I give away everything I can, but if I keep them, then I boil them, and then bone them, and then make sandwiches for lunch.
Oh, there you go.
It's like a turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's quite a few pheasants then.
Well, yeah, except the main thing to do is when a guy comes out to go hunting with you, you settle it ahead of time. Now, anything we get today, you're going to take home, right? You get that established early on.
There you go.
And usually I may have a pheasant that I got the day before, and I'll sneak it into the pile and send him home with it.
Just take it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So what did you talk a fair bit about bird hunting, but fishing is something that you're pretty well known for too. So how did you get into fishing? And
That's a whole another story. But I was teaching school on Whidbey Island.
Okay.
Just out here, and there were guys in our church that were gill netters, and I was a sailor. I loved to sail.
Okay.
I still have a sailboat, and I sail quite a bit in the spring, summer, and we had kids. You can't have a sailboat and have kids, not on a teacher's salary. So the sailboat went down the way, and we kept the kids.
that's good.
Yeah.
They turned out.
Yeah, right. And I thought, well, I like being on the water, so I asked one of the guys in the church if I could crew for him on this gill netter there in Puget Sound. Well, it was right in the era where Puget Sound gill netting was kind of winding down because of different political and geopolitical things. And he was heading for Alaska, Bristol Bay. I knew nothing about it. And so I asked him if I could go along. This is quite a story. He said, no, I already got a crewman up there. We're gonna make one more trip. He gave me a date, a few days away. That's the end of it. And so that's fine. So then he gives me a call about 4 days later. Said, you still want to go to Alaska fishing? Yeah. He said, well, my crewman flipped his boat over and drowned the week before. And so that opened a crew spot. So away I went to Bristol Bay to go fishing the first year. But I never went fishing. I went up there and got a boat ready. It took about a week to get a boat ready, put it in the water, went out a little ways and had trouble with the transmission, had to come back. And we started working on the boat. And the guy said, is there something you can do? I said, well, I can change that windshield. It's cracked. And I said, the short version of the story, I went to do it and ended up slicing my thumb just really bad. Oof. And ended up sitting in the office of the superintendent for about 6 hours waiting for a charter plane to fly me to Anchorage so I could get it sewed back up and all that. And when I got it sewed back up, he said, we can't sew it up, it's been too long. Yes, put a cast on it. And cast on, I can't go fishing. So I ended up flying back to Boise, just heartsick. Oh man, all this money and no fishing, no stories to tell. And then I got to Boise, the in-laws, and started talking. My father-in-law said, well, we could go in on this. You could get a boat. What? I've never done it in my life. Anyway, he helped me put together a package.
Wow.
And the next season I was up there with my own boat and net permit, didn't know what I was doing, but that was, it was 79.
Okay.
And so that began and it went on. And which I was teaching school there most of this time, which is perfect. I think if you want to go fishing, get a teaching job.
There you go.
I'd leave, kids get out their classroom door and I'd jump on the plane, head up there, be up there, and then I could still get back here in August, so I still had a month of vacation.
Okay.
And
so you'd be up there June, July, about 2 months.
And here's a part of that story is I remember that one of those first years teaching, my annual salary was $11,000. And I think it was the first or second year I was up there, and I was with some guys and we were comparing notes. And so, well, Ray, he thinks he made $56,000 so far. What? 56? And I got my fish sticks out. I did too. I don't know. Maybe this teaching isn't what I need to be doing, but I did. You need something. You need something to do in the winter, I guess.
Yeah. So that would be, and is that the season? Is that regulated? That's when you can do it.
Well,
so you could, but you probably could fish. Could you fish for other things if you were to be up there longer?
It's an area where there's just nothing there but salmon, and it's regulated, but it's regulated those seasons because that's the only time the fish are there anyway. It's a real, the farther north you go, the more compressed the runs are. And so you get near the Arctic, the fish rush in and do their thing in just a matter of weeks. And as you move down southeastern Prince William Sound, the seasons are a lot longer. By the time you get down here, it's a 5-month season. So Bristol Bay is a place to be if you're going to teach school.
Yeah. So did you do that every year since 79?
Yeah. And I retired. My last year was my last year.
Wow.
45 years. And so
45 years. Yeah. Same boat?
Same boat. That's another whole story. I'm trying to sell it now. I got a buyer, and we're working on that.
How big a boat is that when you're up there?
In Bristol Bay, it's by law you can't have a boat bigger than 32 feet. So that's a little bit longer in this room here. And
you stay on it?
Yeah, you just live on it.
Wow.
You go in the water, and you probably never get off it for 2 months.
How big is a crew? How many people?
Well, I've had as many as 3, and 2 is about right. Because it's just a lot. There's a lot of times you wish you had an extra person or 2, but it's just tough to live in a little boat.
Yeah.
But through the years, those boats are still 32 feet long, but they've got, the newer ones are just huge. They're 16 wide. They're half the distance of length as width, and they go up forever. And they've got really nice facilities. But, way back there, I tried to sell my boat thinking I might upgrade. Didn't get anybody interested. Just use what I got. So here I am. And I kind of regretted it. In some ways, I should have upgraded, got a bigger boat, caught more fish. Yeah, I don't know. But on the other hand, I'm a pretty routine guy. I could get up there. I knew everything was going on. Both that I've been there for years and years, so I didn't have to worry about too much. But anyway, that's that chapter's page has been turned, and now it's bird hunting.
There you go. Yeah. So will you spend some of that time working dogs and working
during those
that
other
kind
years?
of thing? Now.
No, I don't know. I'll see how that goes. But I enjoy the dog I have. I've usually had at least 2 dogs. I just have one now. And I could get another younger dog and start him, And like I said, I work a little bit on retrieve, a lot on whoa, and be able to call him back, and then just start hunting. And that does have a certain appeal. But there's some advantages to having only one dog. I didn't realize that until this year. In that 2 dogs, your focus is all over the place. And you got so much going on, and it's so nice to have one dog that you can watch. And I think it does the dog better too. They know when you're watching and when you're paying attention, and you can help them out better. And you're like, if they go on point, you're there right away instead of, I think I've lost a dog over here somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's advantages, and I guess I could have 2 dogs, just take one out at a time. But I'm not.
Oh, you'd be heartbroken.
I could do that. The dog's screaming back there, like begging to go. I can do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Very good. Well, so you'll be hunting clear through January, mid-January, and
should.
Do you find better time? Like, is it you like hunting when there's snow on the ground?
I do. The snow is like in the right conditions. It's like another opening day. The birds are out. and if it's nice weather, and you can see the tracks, and you can see the blood trail if you got one down. It's a little easier. I think it's easier for the dogs in some ways. But around here, it gets really cold. I've had some run-ins with dogs where it was serious. They got wet, got in the water, real cold weather. It can be serious for hunters. I was hunting one time over here, a really cold day, and it was kind of thigh-deep grass and down. I knew there was a creek in there somewhere. And I took one step. I went down to my chest, and I didn't even touch the bottom. It must have been a hole. I just went down, and fortunately, I threw my gun, and then was able to claw myself about that and hightail it for the pickup. It was real cold.
Yeah, well, it was 10 degrees at my house this morning.
Oh, it was?
So it's cold.
Yeah.
It's already cold.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hope that, we get more people into it. And some of the things, I don't know if you've run into the Game Bird Foundation, but I just kind of discovered them and the work they're doing, releasing a ton of pheasants and trying to get the population up and that kind of thing. But it'd be good to see a lot of birds and continue to see this area really grow for bird hunting.
Yeah.
So good. Well, thanks, Stan.
Okay, we
I
got time?
appreciate you coming in. Yeah, we're out of time. We may have already lost the film. I don't know, but yeah, appreciate you coming in.
Okay. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.